Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Giants unfortunately win against the Indianapolis Colts by a score of 45-33. Yes, the Giants of all times put up 45 points. They snapped their 10-game losing streak. They avoid going 0-9 at home. So they finished 1-8 at MetLife Stadium. And again, they had lost 10 in a row. They had not won since they won in Seattle in, I guess, was week 5. And it's not good. Now, the Giants, they are essentially not going to pick first. It's not official yet, but with the Cleveland Browns losing, the Browns are very, very unlikely to beat the Baltimore Ravens this coming week. And so let's discuss what this means, and then we'll discuss the game itself. It was an offensive explosion. Drew Lock and Malik Nabers specifically were unbelievable against just a porous Indianapolis Colts defense and a team that was eliminated from playoff contention. They were in it. They had a chance. It wasn't a great chance, but it was a chance nonetheless. And with this loss to the Giants, they are out. But really, to me, in a best case scenario, the Giants would end up number 2, which I'll take that for sure. But I don't think that it's going to happen. So here's kind of where you're at right now. You have 4 3-win teams. And the Giants, they have the best strength of schedule. That's what I've been saying for a while, and that's not a good thing. So they lose those tiebreakers. So right now it's New England, then Tennessee, then Cleveland, then the Giants. Next week, the bit of positive news, but it also kind of hurts the Giants in their own matchup. New England is home against Buffalo, a Buffalo team that is locked into the 2 seed. So there's a chance that based on that New England could maybe win that game because the Bills will be resting starters. Somewhat similar with Tennessee. They'll be home against the Houston Texans. The Texans are locked into the 4 seed. There's a good chance that Houston might be resting their starters. I already mentioned Cleveland and the fact that is about as sure shot a win for the Ravens over the Browns. So they're not going to overcome that. And then the Giants are home against an Eagle team. They're locked into the 2 seed in the NFC. And so that's not good news. And so for the Eagles, it could be, I believe his name is Tanner McKee. He could be the starting quarterback for the Eagles because, Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol. You'd think he might clear it by then. Kenny Pickett has broken ribs. But even beyond all that, you have the Saquon Barkley element, and he is trying to break Eric Dickerson's, rushing record for a single season. I believe he's maybe a little more than 100 yards off that clip. And he surpassed the 2,000-yard mark. Either way, I don't think the Eagles are really going to be putting their best foot forward in this game. And so for the reasons that I said that New England and Tennessee might win, same thing goes to the Giants. And so if the Giants beat the Eagles, which I really, really think that there is a definite chance that they unfortunately might, the Giants went from the first pick to maybe tumbling down all the way to really, honestly, they could drop all the way down to 9. They really could. 8 or 9 is in their sights if they beat the Eagles. So you're really it's not just kind of a 1 or 2 spot stumble. If the Giants lose, then ultimately that win, maybe that will only cost them a couple of spots. But it's not to say that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward will be good. I don't know that, right? I don't. But it's really bad in terms of draft capital, and now the Giants may end up having to trade up to get those guys, which is really, really not what you want. You really don't want to have to trade away like a future first-round pick and things like that. So it's hard for me to spin this into a positive. Could this end up being a blessing in disguise? Yeah, it could be. But I'd rather have the chance to see what they would have been like, and Giants may not even have that opportunity. And if it does come, it comes at the risk of, again, trading away important pieces via the draft in the future. And plus, I just feel as if Joe Shane's going to be the one that's in charge. And Joe Shane may have been able to kind of luck his way into success if somehow one of those 2 quarterbacks were good. How do you feel about Joe Shane knowing that getting that quarterback's not going to be easy? That's like a kind of a worst case scenario. So just a bad win for the Giants. And we've been here before so many times. And this is another one that we can add to the list. And the story is not over. And I think I would have been more upset if I felt like, okay, Next week's Giants-Eagle game, definite Eagle win, but it's not. So it doesn't change the fact that it's bad, but it's like, I think that there's going to be a tough time next week. I think the Giants might win that game. So, and all it would have taken was a Devontae Smith catch against the Commanders in the previous week, where the Eagles would have, no doubt about it, destroyed the Giants in week 18. So now you have to worry about that. So this can turn from bad to worse next week. So, I don't know if I'll go as far as to say disaster, but hey, that was my whole thing this season. And last year, the Giants go on that 3-game winning streak, and they end up with Malik Nabers, and that ends up really likely being a very good thing. Nabers is one of the very, very few bright spots. He really is someone to be excited about. So you have that, but hey, that's where the Giants need to kind of stop it now and lose to the Eagles, because as bad as it feels now, it can get even worse. At least you can put yourself in a position where maybe you can, maybe you want to draft a Travis Hunter somehow. Like, I think being in the top 3 and being in the top 2 would be really what you're looking for. But at least if you can be in the top 3, that to me is pretty big compared to being the number 4 pick, which is where they're slated for right now. So, yeah, it's upsetting. There's still a lot more to be learned. They can move up, they can move down. But what I can tell you is, barring an absolute miracle, Giants are not picking number 1. And they had that control and they lost it. So let's talk about this game. And as I'm on Tankathon right now, on their mock draft, they have cornerback Will Johnson from Michigan being the 4th pick. So what they have here is, and again, there's going to be trades. I think the Patriots are going to, the Patriots would trade down. Right now, they have them taking Travis Hunter and then Shedeur Sanders to Tennessee and Cam Ward to Cleveland. That's the problem, is that, in the case of the Patriots, they already have their quarterback. Tennessee certainly doesn't. And if you're Cleveland, I don't know how you can't feel great about Deshaun Watson to the point where you're going to want to try to get another quarterback. So, again, not good. So this Colt Giant game, Indianapolis was basically saved by the fact that the Broncos lost to the Bengals the day before in a very close game in overtime. And so as a Giant fan, it was a sigh of relief. Okay. And the Colts had the upper hand on the Dolphins and Bengals based on tiebreakers, and the Colts game next week, home against the Jaguars. So on paper, maybe they wouldn't get the ultimate help they needed, because the Broncos next week face a rested, in all likelihood, number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs team. So I don't know if it would have worked out for them, but crazier things could have happened. And they absolutely laid an egg. Joe Flacco was the quarterback for Indianapolis, and he had his good moments and he had his bad moments. For me personally, I would have rather, from a tank standpoint, I would have rather been Anthony Richardson. Look, he's not a good passer, but he is it's night and day, the difference in running ability compared to Joe Flacco. And I think it would have opened more things up for Jonathan Taylor. Now, Taylor's numbers end up being they look big. I thought he was one of the big reasons why they lost this game on offense, but the real big thing is that Colt defense. It's as if they didn't show up. It was unbelievable. Drew Lock looked fantastic. Giants couldn't run the ball, but boy, could they pass it very, very easily as well. So let's just look at some of the team stats, and then we'll get into some individual stats, and then just go through the play-by-play. But and the Giants, they finally won the turnover battle. They won it 3-0. So the Colts could have had more than 33 points. Giants defense was bad, really, really bad. But the Colts, between, again, turnovers, but it wasn't so much turnovers. It was failing to convert on 4th downs. It was, a missed field goal, not getting a 2-point conversion, where the Giants were just simply more efficient. When they had chances to get things done, the Giants basically did. So yards was 446 to 389 in favor of the Colts. The Colts had 10 more first downs. Time of possession in favor of Indianapolis. But really the key for me, and both teams were 7 for 13 on 3rd downs. The big thing for me was the Colts had the Giants had 3rd and long opportunities that they converted on, and for big plays. I think at least 3 of the I think more than that. At least 4 of the touchdowns the Giants got were on 3rd downs. So they were really, so I think that even doesn't do it justice. 7 for 13 doesn't. It's when they were able to get those conversions. As far as some of the stats, Drew Lock, 17 for 23, 309 and 4 touchdowns. So for what it's worth, Drew Lock clearly is better than Tommy DeVito, which I always felt like that was the case. But you had last year DeVito spoil what could have been maybe Jaden Daniels or Drake May, and now you have Drew Lock basically spoiling a chance likely of Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. Again, Tyrone Tracy really didn't get much going on the ground. 20 carries, 59 yards. Devin Singletary, 5 for 21. But the big day, Malik Nabers really went crazy. 7 catches, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he came into the game with an injury, too. Wan'Dale Robinson also had a pretty big game. 5 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. And then Darius Slayton, he made one play, but it was a big one. It was a 32-yard touchdown catch. So those were the 3 big ones. And again, really Nabers, then Wan'Dale, then Slayton. For the Colts, I mean, Jonathan Taylor, 32 for 125 and 2 touchdowns. They were running him a lot, but not with a crazy amount of effectiveness. And with no Dexter Lawrence, no Bobby Okereke, none of it mattered. And I'm trying to think as far as any injury updates. I don't think really much changed from last week, other than the fact that John Michael Schmitz wasn't the center. He was hurt, so they moved Greg Van Roten over to center. And I believe it was Aaron Stinney who returned, I believe, from concussion protocol, was left guard, and Jake Kubis swung over to right guard with Illuminor and Neal as the tackles. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Other than that, like, it was kind of what it had been the week before. Schmitz being the big one. So yeah. But for the Colts, Alec Pierce, 6 for 122 and a touchdown, and Michael Pittman, 9 for 109 and a touchdown. Josh Downs, surprisingly, really very quiet game for him. Only 3 catches for 22 yards. He's had a pretty good connection with Joe Flacco. But the Colts had the turnovers, I guess, are a little misleading. The game, 2 of the turnovers, the game was basically over at that point. And the other one was a bad interception by Flacco early in the game. But one that wasn't crazily consequential, but a little bit. As far as the Giants defense, the interceptions were Dane Belton and Drew Phillips. So Drew Phillips gets his first career interception. Dane Belton, who isn't really overly impressive, he does tend to be a player over the years that has gotten interceptions and has, caused turnovers and things like that. So he's not, I wouldn't call Dane Belton a complete bum, but he's not very good either. As far as the sacks, the Giants had 2 of them, and Rakeem Nunez-Roches had one early. It was kind of a coverage sack. It was Rakeem Nunez-Roches' first full sack of the season. The other, I think he had half sacks for his other ones. And then Kayvon Thibodeau, late in the game, he had a sack. So they got some pressure on Flacco, nothing too crazy. The Giants defense really wasn't very good for the most part, but they, didn't matter because the Giants put up 45 points. And I believe it was the first time the Giants put up over 30 or something like that since the Giants beat the Colts 2 seasons ago, right around this time of year, but it was different. That's when the Giants clinched a playoff berth. And so that was more of a joyous time. This was not joyous, except for some fans that went to the game that really, I don't know. I'm not really sure what they were thinking, but again, everyone roots differently, but this is really not a good thing for the Giants that they won. So let's try to go through this. It was more enjoyable when they were losing, as sad as that sounds. So the Colts are moving the ball pretty well to start the game. But a bad play. And so, it's more consequential than I thought because it was 2nd and 9 at the 29. It's not as if it was 3rd down. Joe Flacco gets a little bit of pressure on him and he just kind of heaves it up, and Dane Belton makes a really nice catch at the Giants' 6-yard line. So what really could have been at least 3 points ends up in nothing. However, kind of the one time the Colts defense got the job done was a very quick 3 and out. And it didn't help that, there was an Aaron Stinney false start, but they were not getting any effectiveness with Tyrone Tracy. And that game plan shifts over to just passing the ball downfield, and it worked. And something that we haven't seen really much this season. So the Colts get the ball back, decent field position. Alec Pierce with a 19-yard catch. And they get into the red zone, but then, Jonathan Taylor, not, a few runs, and eventually Nunez-Roches is sacks Flacco to cause a field goal chance for Matt Gay, which he hits. A 32-yard field goal for Gay makes it 3-0 Colts. But then the Giants, they get a touchdown drive. And really the biggest play of the game that's crazy. So I didn't even really think about that. Tyrone Tracy gets a 40-yard run. So besides that 40-yard run, he really didn't do anything on the ground. So I guess besides that, he was 19 for, I think he might have been 19 for 19. That's pretty crazy. So Tracy gets that 40-yard run, gets it into Colt territory, and then on a 3rd and 14, that's the thing. 3rd and 14, it's locked to Nabers for 31 yards on a touchdown. And a lot of this was catch and run. A lot of this, and so give credit to the Giants receivers, but just really poor soft tackling by the Colts. It was just truly pathetic. So that gives the Giants a 7-3 lead. And then the Colts have a drive that extends from the first quarter to the second quarter. There was a 3rd down conversion in there. Granson with a 27-yard catch. They get it into Giant territory, but then they kind of stall out. And on 4th and 3 at the 35, they elect to go for the field goal. So Shane Steichen, a little bit of a questionable decision. And Matt Gay misses the field goal, 54-yard field goal wide right. Matt Gay was actually the one that missed the field goal for the Bucks in Daniel Jones' first start of his career way back when in 2019. But Gay as a Colt misses it. And again, I didn't love that decision by Steichen. So it remains 7-3, and then the Giants, they tack on. And I think at this point, it might have been the biggest Giant lead of the season, or thereabouts. Certainly by the time they make it 21-6, but here they make it, 21-6. Here they make it 14-3. And the big play, there was one to Malik Nabers to get it into Colt territory, a 19-yard catch, but then it was locked to Slayton for 32 yards on a 3rd and 8. That's the thing. It's 3rd and longs that are not only first downs, but touchdowns. So that makes it 14-3. Then the Colts get a field goal drive, but it could have been more. And it was a deep play to Alec Pierce from Flacco that resulted in defensive pass interference by Deonte Banks. It was a play that Pierce really could have caught it, and if he did, could have had a touchdown. So it's a positive play for the Colts, but it ends up being a missed opportunity. And also, Deonte Banks is so bad. It's just not even funny. I mean, that's going to go down as one of the worst picks. And there's been a lot of them by Joe Shane, but I don't really have a whole lot of faith in Deonte Banks. Really, really ugly, as the Colts were really picking on him as much as they could. But the Giant defense is able to kind of stand tough, and they hold the Colts to a field goal. So a 29-yard field by Matt Gay. So a missed opportunity there. And the Giants again get a touchdown drive. And on this one, let's see, you had a big Malik Nabers play, a 34-yard catch to the Colts 7-yard line. Then the Giants took there was a big chop block on Daniel Bellinger. So really, you get to a point where it's 2nd and goal at the 20, but a 19-yard catch by Nabers, then a false start by Jay Kubis moves it to 3rd and goal at the 5, but it doesn't matter. Locke finds a wide open Wan'Dale Robinson for a 5-yard touchdown to make it 21-6. It did not matter. The Giants would be in bad, situations, like I just mentioned, and they were easily able to score. It's kind of crazy that the Giants offense did as well as they did. We just have not seen that for a long, long time. And today they chose the day to do it. But the Colts do respond with a touchdown themselves. And this one, fairly methodical drive. Some catches by Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman. And you go to the 2-minute warning. You get a 12-yard run by Jonathan Taylor. Really a very, very big play that happens is a 4th and 5 at the 8. They go for it. And the tight end Granson makes a really nice catch. The Giants had called all 3 of their timeouts. And so this is a pivotal moment. And the Colts convert that. And eventually, on a 2nd and goal at the 3, Jonathan Taylor scores a 3-yard touchdown. So you end up going to the half 21-13. So all considered, from a Colts standpoint, could have been better, could have been worse, the way it felt. But how does the second half begin? In a mere Smith-Marset 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. And when shit like that happens, it's like, okay, Giants are probably winning this game. You could not afford that if you were the Colts. You didn't take the momentum that you had from the end of the half and brought it into the second half. So Smith-Marset, a really nice, it was really nice block by, I think, Timon Fox, just took out a Colt. And that made it 28-13. But the Colts again respond with a touchdown. And it's a Michael Pittman 19-yard reception that helped. And the big play, Jonathan Taylor, a 26-yard touchdown run on a 3rd and 1 to cut it to 28-20. And then the Giants do go 3 and out. So they go the Tyrone Tracy route. Doesn't really work out for them. And so now the Colts have the ball down by 8 with like halfway through the 3rd quarter. So at this point, they're like kind of in a pretty good position. And there was a 31-yard catch by Michael Pittman. But here's where things go wrong. And it was really frustrating rooting for the Colts. A 3rd and 1 where Jonathan Taylor, it's a no gain. He cuts it out. He cuts it to the left side. Could have easily gotten the first down and just goes out of bounds. I'm not sure if he was hurt. I'm not sure what happened, but really inexcusable. I think Brian Burns was somewhat hurt on that play. And then on 4th and 1, they go back to Taylor and up the gut, and he's stuffed. Elijah Chapman, I think, was in on that one, as well as Garcia, the defensive tackles for the Giants. And so that's just a really bad job by Indianapolis there. And so the score remains an 8-point game. The Giants get the ball, and there's a 3rd down conversion to Wan'Dale Robinson. The Giants get a little bit aggressive. It's a 4th and 1, and they do, I think it might have been a toss play to Tyrone Tracy that stopped at their own 42. So a very aggressive call by Dable that doesn't work, and the Indianapolis Colts do not take advantage of it. We go to the 4th quarter, and they don't even move the ball. They go 3 and out, and so they have to punt it away. Giants get the ball at their 10, but then the Giants go 3 and out again. And again, it was, more of a Tyrone Tracy focused draw. When they did that, it didn't work. But when they went to Nabers and Wan'Dale, that was a lot more effective. So Jamie Gillen punts it away, and the Colts get the ball down by 8 early in the 4th quarter, and they are able to put together a touchdown drive. Another pass interference on Deonte Banks. And ultimately, you get a Flacco to Alec Pierce 13-yard touchdown. So now the Colts have a chance to tie the game on a 2-point conversion. And what was a really creative play, Shane Steichen draws up a play where Flacco throws it to Michael Pittman. He was going to be tackled, but he sees Jonathan Taylor, laterals it to him, and Taylor drops the ball. So if Taylor's able to secure that, there's a good chance that he's scoring on that play because, Giants really weren't ready for that. Creativity that did not work. Again, Jonathan Taylor, the little things that he couldn't do that cost the Colts. So it's still a 2-point game, but a lot of time left. Still a lot of time left. But, and what was a really big play, it wasn't like the end-all, be-all play, but a really big 59-yard touchdown pass from Drew Lock to Malik Nabers, and it's another catch-and-run type play where the Colts just can't bring down Malik Nabers. That makes it 35-26. But a very, very quick response by the Colts in 2 minutes. Alec Pierce, 49-yard catch, and they eventually get a Flacco to Pittman 7-yard touchdown. So that makes it 35-33. This is where it reaches kind of the end point, basically. And there was a pretty big defensive pass interference, the right call, where Nabers was just interfered with. And, if that doesn't happen, who knows? But a big 3rd and 8 conversion from Locke to Wan'Dale Robinson for 35 yards. It was at the Colt 44. They could have caused the Giants to punt it or maybe somehow go for it. And now it's 1st and goal at the 9. And eventually 3rd and goal at the 5. And if the Colts can stop them, it's a 5-point game. I think the Colts had all 3, at least 2, I think maybe all 3 of their timeouts. And it ends up being a Drew Lock scramble, 5-yard touchdown run. And you knew that was the only chance they had on that play. And number 20, I'm not sure what his name was on the Colts, who had a really bad game all game, backs up in the end zone. I'm not sure what he was trying to cover. He should have went to Locke. And so Locke, again, really literally stumbles into the end zone. And that makes it 42-33 with less than 3 minutes left. So the game was essentially all but over. But what really confirmed it is Flacco throws an interception to Drew Phillips. And then the Giants eventually just kick a field goal. Graham Gano, 30-yard field goal, makes it 45-33. And then eventually, after the 2-minute warning, Flacco is sacked by Kayvon Thibodeau, and it's recovered by Garcia. And then, and that would be it. Then the Giants would be in victory formation, and they win 45-33. Just really, really bad loss by the Colts. Really, really bad win by the Giants. And now we see what happens. Next week versus the Eagles. The Giants picks, realistically to me, quite literally, they could still get the first pick. But in realistic terms, to me, it's going to go anywhere from about 2 to 9. The Giants lose, it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 4. If they win, I think it's going to be probably either 8 or 9. So that's, I guess we can put it pretty simple then, right? Because you're probably not going to end up in that, I'll say 7. I haven't looked enough into the 4-win teams, so I'm going to say 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, or 9 is probably just about where. So, it's still important to lose. It really, really is, in terms of if you want to somehow trade up, which I wouldn't want to. There's still a lot to be lost or gained in this Eagle game, but I don't feel great about it considering the Eagles are very, very likely going to play a lot of their bench players. And the Giants probably have a little bit of confidence, especially on offense, after what we saw in this game. So the Giants snap their 10-game losing streak, and they do not go 0-9 at home. They finally win that final game at MetLife Stadium. They go 1-8 at home. Their record stands at 3-13. They are not going to get the number 1 pick in the draft, and we will see how things end up in their last game of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles.